Guys, it's over. It's finally over. Survivor 41 is a finished season, which is really crazy to me because we've known about this season since around mid-May, around May 20th, 15th, something like that. Basically, we knew that the players were being shipped out to Fiji when they were getting shipped out, and we knew that the season had ended around May 10th, and we knew the complete cast by around, I think, May 20th. So yeah, we've known this season was happening and all of it since like May, and it's December now, a whole 7 months later, but we finally have the finished product of Survivor 41. Now, if you watched my videos, I've been very critical about Survivor 41, and I'm gonna be honest, I have a lot of flaws with this season. I think this season has a bunch of flaws, but this is a more chill, laid-back video. We're just gonna get into Survivor 41. I'm just gonna have an open conversation about it, talk about some of the castaways, obviously talk about the winner, the stuff I like, the stuff I dislike, and where I think Survivor 41 left off for Survivor 41 to either improve upon or not improve upon. So let's just get started off. So the initial hype up for this season, I think a lot of people had unrealistic expectations for this season. I think a lot of people was like, it better be a top 10 season, something like that. Really, I just wanted this to be better than Thailand and I'd be happy, which, it was better than Thailand, but I don't know if I'm quite happy right now. So anyway, let's talk about the premiere. I mean, obviously coming to the premiere, I'm hyped all up. I'm wearing my 3 Survivor buffs. And the first thing that happens is Jeff asks them, what do you think about the word guys? I think we should change it. And then kind of then and there kind of knew it was like, so this is that type of season. I was really hoping that Survivor 41 was just going to try to be laid back and just try not to do anything too controversial, as it's the freaking first season back in, 16 months? Let's not do anything that is going to make hardcore fans hate the show. Or just casual fans, because I think casual fans are honestly more important to please than regular fans. Just my opinion. But no, we didn't get that. So we have the entire cast saying, yeah, guys, this is good. And then we even have Evie, the they, them of the cast, saying that, yeah, guys, it's fine. We're all good. So I was like, all right, cool. The cast, these cast are some smart players. These are some smart players. And we kind of just get some cool camp life. So I honestly think that the premiere is pretty strong. I like the premiere. Besides, obviously, from this next part we'll be talking about, I actually think that the premiere was very strong. And me, my bud Survivor Spencer, for the majority of the pre-merge, when the fans were hating on it, now they're not hating on it anymore. Yeah, I wonder why. When all the fans were hating on the show in the very beginning, me and Survivor Spencer were actually like sticking up for the show, saying, no, this is actually like really good. And I do believe that Survivor 41 had a decent pre-merge. And this premiere especially, I think, was pretty solid. We get to the first challenge. I think you guys know what I'm about to say. Ricardo does the whole, let's change the come on in, guys. First of all, I think it's incredibly dumb that one person out of 18 people got to say, let's change it. You're not supposed to make decisions from the minority. You're supposed to make them from the majority. That's how democracy works. Survivor's really a democracy, unless you have an immunity title, obviously. So why are we letting one person decide the changes? I really wish someone stuck up and said, no, let's not change it. But I get it. You don't look bad on TV. And basically, if you lean one way, you look bad on TV. That's just how it is nowadays. Whatever. I think the Yasa tribal was pretty boring. I think we all kind of knew that Abraham was going. We did get the intrigue with the island twist. I forgot to mention that, where during the tribal council, we saw that Xander did get his advantage. So we basically know that, or we didn't see it during tribal council. We knew before, and then we actually just got to see him. He got his advantage. That's cool. I think we all knew that Danny was probably never risking his vote, so we kind of knew that JD and Xander were going to get them. Abraham goes in. Real quick thoughts on Abraham. He was boring. Probably the best person to be able to be the first vote off. Now, in saying that, I think that Boche and Xander made a horrible mistake in voting him out because they put themselves at a big disadvantage, and that cost one of their games, as we'll talk about in a couple seconds here. But yeah, Abraham, not a big character, but I really want Survivor first boots to happen, and we need more male first boots, so whatever. Then we get to the Uwa Tribal Council, which actually had some intrigue in it, as I think now later on in the show, I think it's becoming more obvious that Sarah probably was always going to go home here. But the way they edited it made it real interesting, where it looked like Ricardo was actually really trying to keep Sarah in. And they even tried to blindside Brad. I don't think this was ever happening. Now looking back at it, I think this was probably always being a Sarah vote. But we got a live tribal council. JD said voting off Brad is a horrible idea. Let's not do it. Shannon was like, all right, whatever. They vote off Sarah. I was actually somewhat surprised that Sarah was going home this early, as we got that pretty big edit with her in the beginning about her story with COVID and stuff like that. A real touching story. So I thought she was at least going to make it like near the merge, somewhere right there. But they caught me off guard. I was wrong. Sarah gets voted out here. I just think she wasn't really ready for the game, honestly. I don't think that she was quite ready for the harshness of the game. And, you know, that it's fair, whatever. She's the second boot. Pretty good boots here. First ever time that we've seen more than one people voted out on this season, because it's a 26-day thing. I forgot to mention that, which I think probably ended up hurting this season, that it was 26 days, as with less time, you just kind of more of the times probably need to stick to your numbers. So I think it ends up hurting the season, but obviously I'm not going to hold it against Survivor this time, because you know, laws and stuff like that in Fiji, they only had a certain limit, a limited amount of days out there. So I'll let it slide, but I won't let it slide if 43 and 44 are 26 days, unless for some reason Fiji makes them where it has to be 26 days. If not, yeah, I'm not going to blame Survivor here for 26 days. I know Russell will, but yeah, I love Russell but my hands, by the way, guys. Yeah. So next episode was probably the worst episode of the pre-merge, as it focused on Yasa too much. The entire episode was basically Yasa, and by the challenge, it became so obvious that Yasa was going to go home, because that was like the only tribe that we had seen. Surprise, surprise, Yasa ends up going, and it looks like it's going to be an easy Xander or Tiffany vote here. You know, normal stuff like that. But for some reason, the Yasa woman and Evie and Lyanna decide to vote out Voce here. I think this was terrible gameplay on their part. We literally saw that Tiffany was both a strategic liability and a physical liability in challenges, and just really was a mismove on the women's part here to vote out Voce. But again, I think it was a move on Voce and Xander to let Abraham get voted out, as if Abraham's here, there's no way that Voce gets voted out. Now, does this affect Xander too much in the long run? I don't think so, because Abraham was always going to be a loyal to a fault type of guy. But now with Voce, Abraham, and Xander all on that tribe, it makes their winning chances and challenges way better. Even though they do end up winning out, which I think is more circumstantial, they probably would have just won easier with at least Voce on the tribe. I'm going to miss Voce. I think Voce was great. I hope he comes back for his second chance season, because Voce just was awesome. I loved his little thing where he knew that in the very beginning of the season, if you guys remember, there's like this challenge where you either put water into buckets or solve like this problem. And Voce knew that theoretically, yes, the triangle challenge, where you have to see how many triangles are in this one big triangle, is the harder challenge. He didn't want to be placed in the water challenge, because he's going to be gone from 4 other people, while him and one other person will be going past, you know, passing the water buckets and stuff like that. I think that was really interesting on his part, that he was like, yes, I know it's technically the wrong decision, but I don't want to be gone from the tribe. He ended up having to do it. He was like, oh, look, I'm the idiot here who has to go back and forth. I think he was a very interesting character. Hope he comes back one day. And on that note, someone who I also hope comes back one day is Brad. Brad is probably my favorite pre-merge character in a while. I love Brad. He's so funny. I really expect him to be like let's keep this tribe strong, which he kind of was, but he was also a pretty big game player as well. You know, kind of like a Tony S type figure. He was going around running on the beach, hiding in bushes and stuff like that. Really interesting character. I just think he kind of overplayed his hand. I mean, he literally told Chantel and Sarah that, yeah, you guys are on the chopping block. And honestly, I think with the Uwa tribe, Brad was probably never going to be able to get anywhere in that tribe. I think he just kind of got unlucky with his position in the game. Although I do think a lot of the stuff that the reason why he gets voted out is his fault at the end of the day. I do think there was some stuff that was keeping him from getting too far in the game. But I love Brad. I hope he comes back one day. He'd probably be a pre-merge vote off again, but it was really fun seeing Brad on Survivor 41. Also, first contestant from Wyoming. Interesting. Also, this Brad episode just wasn't the best, really. Too heavy focused on advantage and stuff like that. And something I forgot to mention is that in the beginning of the episode, Evie literally freaking cries because she didn't get out Xander when you literally just could have gotten out Xander right at that tribal council. What? This is kind of where my, dislike for Evie starts. And if you guys don't watch the podcast with me and Spencer, you guys know I have a very big disdain for Ricard. That obviously started in the pre-merge. Then next we got probably the best episode of the whole season, if not the merge. It's close between another episode. I mean the pre-merge. It's close between another episode. The best definitely though episode from the pre-merge we got here is the JD episode. This episode, no advantages really in it, and it just was a good episode where each tribe got a good amount of content, and we got an interesting Uwa tribal where obviously Chantel loves JD, but she had to get rid of him because he was just too much of a liability. Which the whole reasoning that Chantel gives is really backwards because it can be applied to Brad because all this stuff happened and she's mad at JD for hiding his advantage, but she just voted out Brad because he gave her an advantage. Really backwards logic. It doesn't matter. JD gets voted out here. I mean, JD's another. I think out of Voce, Brad, and JD, I think JD's the biggest lock for a return, as he's first of all the one that got the furthest, and he also is just I think the most not my favorite character, but I think the majority of people's favorite character from this pre-merge. Had a really good story. Young guy, just was like so hyped to be in the game. He's obviously younger than the show. He's only like 4 or 5 years older than me, which is crazy. I hope we see him back too. I love JD. I think again, kind of like Brad, he overplayed his hand and kind of just misunderstood how strong a relationship with Chantel she had. I don't think he realized that Ricardo was actually her number one, which we didn't really get that confirmation either until after this episode. I just think he kind of fundamentally didn't understand his positioning in the game with Chantel. And that happens, that happens. It's whatever. I hope we see JD back. And I think good move on Chantel to get rid of JD here. I think this is probably the best time at this point to get rid of JD if you hadn't got rid of him already. And, that was a pretty strong episode. And I think while the next episode, the Jenny episode, isn't as good, I still think it's actually a pretty decent episode. We have Uwa losing once again. I think we got a good amount of content from all tribes. And obviously the Jenny vote out here. Jenny just wasn't a good player, wasn't an interesting character in my opinion. I'm glad she didn't really make it to the merge. However, I do think it was a big mistake for Chantel to get rid of Jenny, as Jenny would never, I think in a million years, flip on Chantel if she keeps her here. And we obviously know that Ricard does flip on Chantel. I think it was probably Chantel's biggest mistake. I know she liked Ricard a lot, but if there wasn't as much emotion in that vote, I think the best decision was to obviously vote out Ricard here, keep Jeannie. She's loyal to a fault. Ricard isn't. Easier to keep around. Then we got probably the worst episode in Survivor history after this, which is awesome, obviously. A no vote merge. A no vote episode merge. Wow. That was just crazy to me that production thought this was a good idea to have a merge episode. There's the 3 biggest episodes are the premiere, the merge, and the finale. And you're missing a vote off in one of those? I think that this episode felt like an Australian Survivor episode, which is not a good thing at all. Australian Survivor is basically a whole different Survivor, a lot of different advantages and stuff like that, and this just felt like a Australian Survivor episode. Obviously, no vote out, that's a very Australian Survivor of them. This really big twist, a merge is so easy to do. All you gotta do is say, drop your buffs, put on new buffs, go to one beach together, and your merge. But of course, Survivor production had to make it different because we just love being different here, right? I just realized that I totally forgot to talk about the Shot in the Dark twist. We'll talk about that later, though. Honestly, for the most part, I'm pretty happy with who we got here from the merge. Obviously, I wish JD Voce, probably Brad, were here in place of Ricard. In place of Ricard, probably Heather too. Didn't need to be here. Crazy thing. Yeah, this is the first time in a while that an entire tribe has made it to the merge. The entire Luvu tribe has made it to the merge. I'll talk about edits later and stuff like that, but definitely one of the players from Luvu should have been way more edited. I get it. It just wasn't easy to edit Luvu as they won every single challenge, but there's one specific member of Luvu, I think you all know who I'm talking about, who should have been edited way more than they did. Obviously, we did get content from Luvu. I mean, they're not going to just completely disregard them, but we really should have gotten more content from them. Anyway, this merge episode goes by, no vote out, and then we get the Erica twist, the Erica bomb, where Jeff Probst is like, hey Erica, you can either switch the game up entirely, smash this urn, you get immunity, you are safe, you don't even compete in the challenge, you're safe, and you say the 5 other people that in the stupid merge twist are not safe, and you get to make the 5 people who are safe in the stupid merge twist safe. Or you keep the game entirely as it is, and you don't win immunity, and you could be voted out. Why did they set this up to be such a big decision? Anyone in their right mind would take this decision and smash the urn. No hesitation. There was absolutely no hesitation in making this decision. Okay, you either are getting immunity and are safe for 1 round, or you don't get immunity and you're up for grabs, and you have just been gone off an island for 2 days. Which do you think is a better idea? Obviously, yeah. Erica switches up the game here, good on her. Completely circumstantial. In fact, the whole reason whoever gets on this island, it's because their lack of social, their social game. Because whoever gets here was chosen between 1 or 2 people to go. Whoever has a better social game will be choosing to go with the tribe that wins. And obviously Nasir had a better social game. He simply did. So we got to go with the tribe that wins. And Erica, because she didn't have a good social game, and we saw she didn't have a good social game because everyone wanted to get her out, she goes to the island. Erica was saved twice in this pre-merge because Nasir is a freaking beast at challenges. And honestly, I mean, who knows what happens when Nasir goes off to the beach? We have no idea. Anyway, we get back. Erica, obviously, good on her. She smashed the glass. I think it's Evie, Xander, Lyanna, Tiffany, and Chantel, I think. I believe those are the people who now get immunity because they're safe. Then we get to the merge tribal council, which actually was a pretty good episode. I will say this merge episode, for the most part, I think was actually a pretty solid episode. We had a great tribal where the shot in the dark actually gets used by Sydney. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that Survivor 41, the editors, probably would have cut out this whole entire shot in the dark twist if Sydney had not used it, because it never came up in conversations at all. Voje said it the best. The whole shot in the dark thing is actually not as scary if you actually think about it from a logical standpoint. It's a 1 in 6 chance. You have to give up your vote for a 1 in 6 chance of being safe. It is simply just not worth it unless you are basically 100% sure. Everyone told you are going home 100%. We're not lying. We have the idol. We're showing you right here. You're going home. We're bullying you out the way. That's like the only time you use it. So it simply just isn't a good twist. I don't think it's going to be used that often if it's in 42, which I think it is going to be used in 42. So yeah, bad move on Sydney's part to play it, but she did, and she was right because she gets voted out. Honestly, coming into this, I kept thinking about it more and more, and Sydney was really set up as the merge boot, someone who kind of a villainous character that got the most content from Luvu, which should have been a clear red flag that she was going to be probably the merge boot, as they needed someone to get content from Luvu. Obviously it's Sydney because she was the merge boot. And I forgot exactly. We're gonna kind of stop going on an episode by episode basis at this point, since we're at the merge, since we can just kind of talk about the rest of the game at this point. We're at the jury phase, I should say. And this is kind of where the season really, really falls off for me. Coming into this merge, I was really expecting a lot of cool, fluid gameplay from this cast. Yeah, we got the opposite of that. We got the infamous Black Alliance somewhere close to this episode, if I remember correctly. That consists of Danny, Chantel, Lyanna, and Deshawn. When you make a alliance based off of one race to vote out other races to make sure that your race is the only race that's in the final 3, that's racist. Yeah, obviously I do not like this very much. It's just not fun TV seeing this happen because if one particular race did it, it would be a big no. But because it's another race, double standards, it is a yes for some godforsaken reason. So yeah, I don't like this. I mean, they're saying that they want to represent all African Americans. You can't represent all African Americans if you're just one person. Like if, like let's say Ricardo goes on Survivor, he's deaf in one ear. He's not representing all hard of hearing people. So it's just like really weird to see this going on, and yeah, I don't like it. They contradict themselves so many times where it's like, oh, we're trying to represent African Americans, that we all aren't just like this or whatever. But when you're making an alliance based off race to only get African Americans in the end, it's very counterintuitive is kind of what I'm saying. You can disagree with me about whatever you want. This is just kind of when the season got really, really freaking political and stuff like that, which is something I don't want to see. I don't want to see a race war on Survivor. We obviously kind of saw that in Cook Islands. It's nasty. It's nasty television. You don't want to see it. We obviously get the tribal councils where Lyanna tries to lecture us on why we're all privileged and she's not, despite going to a prestigious college. All while Nasir's on the jury, who lived in poverty for 18 years of his life in India, had no running water. But no, Lyanna is just so much more unprivileged because Lyanna lives in America. She lives in America, guys. One of the obviously most racist, bigoted countries out there. And she goes to a prestigious college, which obviously is just such a racist thing to happen to her. Danny is a freaking NFL player who I think had to play defense or something for the Cowboys. He just had to make sure people didn't get a touchdown and got millions of dollars off it. Deshaun's a doctor. He's making bank. And Chantel's a pastor. She gets paid to have people listen to her. I would not listen to her, though, if I were you, because she is racist. Yeah. Like I said, I had a lot of problems with 41, and this is kind of where all the problems came in right here, was this merge section of the game. I just don't think it was that many interesting vote outs. We had the Evie vote out. That wasn't really interesting. The Nasir vote out, not really too interesting if I'm being honest. I like Nasir. I think Nasir is one of my more favorite characters from the season. I love Nasir. Funny dude, the whole, which I even forgot to mention about this, the whole Beware Advantage thing with Nasir is obviously amazing. I love that scene. So good. Where they're all like, oh, they're saying their weird stuff or whatever. I do think the Beware Advantage, though, while we did get this good moment, probably should never be used again. They're probably using it for 42, but it's just way too much of a disadvantage for the player for finding an advantage. They don't get a vote until they have to count on other players in the game. The whole point of Survivor is that you have to count on yourself and only yourself, and you have to maybe trust some other people. This is putting your trust in people that don't even live on the same island as you. Not a good twist. The merge with Sierra Tiffany, I don't know why Edgic thought Tiffany was going to win it. I very clearly saw that there's no way Tiffany was winning from the very beginning. I don't know. And the Seer, not a lot of intrigue there. Not a lot of intrigue really at the Evie vote off either. Now, I will say there's some intrigue at the Shan vote off, but still like pretty obvious, especially after what happened. That past tribal council with, Deshaun blown up and stuff like that. Just, it was kind of very obvious that Shan was going to go home here. Ricardo won immunity, so that obviously made Deshaun and Danny were like, okay, we got to get rid of Shan. She's a big threat. Let's get her out of here. That did happen. Ricardo actually helped them, and Shan was not mad at Ricardo, who kind of set up the blind side, but was mad at Deshaun because Deshaun's a bad person. I don't know. We got the very next episode, Lyanna getting voted out, which is very great to see because I did not really like Lyanna that much. I think she talks the talk, but simply does not walk the walk. We got Danny voted out next episode. As we can see, 3 out of the 4 Cookout members got voted out back to back to back. I kept saying in the podcasts, if the Cookout gets, broken up, I was saying that they're probably all going to go home around the same time. And I was right about that. Deshaun was the only main. I said Cookout. My bad. The Camp Out Alliance. I was really thinking the entire time if one of them goes out, they're probably all going to gun for each other after that because they're all very like, oh, let's keep this alliance strong. When the alliance really wasn't that great from to begin with. I don't think they had anything in common really. Danny, Lyanna, Shan, Deshaun. I think really it was just a conjugation of 2 duos. Danny and Deshaun's relationship, which was good, and Lyanna and Shan's relationship, which was alright. I just think they simply were not meant to be alliance members, and it obviously showed that. And I think it was kind of dumb of them to try to keep this alliance together when it obviously was not going to work out. Then we got the finale, and you guys know that I had a whole story arc basically of me just really disliking the Ricard a lot. Him finally getting voted out. Mwah! So good. I saw our reaction video out soon. I don't know if I'll actually post that reaction video because, you know, there's other people in the video and stuff like that. I'll have to edit it a bit, but yeah. Seeing Ricard finally get voted out, I just simply did not like Ricard that much. I can appreciate him as a character, even though I think his character's annoying and stuff like that. I don't know why people like his character. I think he's super annoying, but I can at least appreciate that. And then we had a really good fire making challenge with Deshaun and Heather. Heather was obviously invisible, but she was probably super boring anyway. I don't get why people say, oh, we need to see more Heather, when it probably just would have been boring. And a big comeback fire making challenge, probably one of the better ones actually, so that's good for the season. Deshaun wins. The final three of this is Xander, Deshaun, and Erica. I think you all know what's about to happen here. Okay, so coming in the final tribal, I really don't know who won. But we obviously saw Xander had a bomb tribal council. He didn't bomb his tribal council, he had a bomb tribal council so good. There was only one part in the tribal council where he kind of stuttered, but he literally gave an amazing answer after that and had the whole jury shaking their head saying, oh yeah, it's a good answer. And then we get a 0-1-7 vote where Erica wins. The person that got one vote was Deshaun, not Xander. I don't know about that. I know people are going to hate me for saying this, call me a conspiracy theory, whatever. I think that this final three basically was decided at final tribal council, the tribal council before final tribal council. I think that Xander had a 0% chance to win the game because he was a white straight male. I'm going to be honest. I think that's the whole reason why he didn't win. Call me, you know, bigoted if you want. I think that's the reason why I think that's the reason why he lost. We obviously saw Xander had a good social game. Say what you want about Erica having a social game. She obviously didn't. Xander had an amazing social game, found idols, made big moves, was able to stay on the bottom, realized that keeping Ricard is actually good for his game, as when Ricard goes, he will probably go next, was able to keep Ricard to the final 5 and get him out right before he was probably going to win. That it was all great maneuvering by Xander, was able to keep quiet when he needed to. And even Deshaun had a pretty good game outside of that. And Erica wins in a 7-1-0 vote. I simply do not believe, without an unbiased jury, that Xander doesn't get 0 votes. If it was a 3-4 vote where Erica had 4 votes, Xander had 3 votes, whatever. Okay, maybe. But I just can't believe that Erica gets the votes of someone like a Nasir, or even someone like a Tiffany. I just think that, you know, probably on Ponderosa there was a discussion at the round table about, like, who do we want to represent Survivor 41? And they're all like, we can't have another straight white male winner, so let's get him out of here. I simply cannot be convinced that, and maybe they didn't have the conversation, maybe all of them are just biased and, you know, just didn't want a white straight male winner just because he's a white straight male. That could have happened. That could not have happened. I personally think that that's what went down, but I could be wrong. You never know. I think that really this jury was super biased against Xander. I think Xander probably, now looking back at it, had a 0% chance to win simply because of his gender and his ethnicity or his race, which is really low. I don't like that. Erica wins in a 7-1-0 vote. Erica is the newest sole survivor. The first female winner since 34, Sarah. Which you would think with that, production would really eat this up and give Erica a big edit, which they didn't. Erica got barely any content in the pre-merge and still barely any content in the post-merge. She got her last couple episodes were alright, and even in the final tribal council, it was really the Xander show if you look back at it. I think Erica spoke twice. Yeah. I simply cannot be convinced that there was none of the players were biased against Xander. if Erica won in this fashion. I think Danny was always voting for Deshaun, even if they told him to vote for Erica. I think Danny was simply always going to vote for Deshaun, which was good, I guess, on Deshaun's social, movement. But yeah, Erica is our newest sole survivor. And look, I'm not mad at Erica for it. I think people get the wrong opinion. Good job, Erica. You're a freaking million now in Canadian dollars. Good for you. I'm not mad that you played the way you wanted to play and that you won. I'm mad at production and the players, mostly production, I guess, at this point, that they didn't show her at all. You literally know that she's the winner of the show, the first female winner since 34. You'd think, like I said, production would eat that up. But they didn't, and they just simply didn't show her enough, I think, for her win to feel warranted. Basically, after every single finale, we get the winner. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It still doesn't feel like Erica has won this season. To me right now, it just still feels like we haven't got a winner of Survivor 41, and we're still waiting for that winner of Survivor 41. And I think that's simply because of the edit. It just doesn't feel right that Erica won the game of Survivor 41, especially in today's, Survivor climate. And again, no shade towards Erica. This is all towards the Survivor jury at this point, and the production. I'm not mad at Erica. Okay, it's great for her that she won. That's awesome. But I just feel like like I said, it feels like we still haven't found out who the winner was of Survivor 41. And you can call me sexist or whatever, saying, "Oh, well, it's because you're biased because Xander's a white straight male." No, it's simply just because Xander played a better game than Erica and got 0 votes. And we all know that this jury was probably pretty biased. I mean, look who's on this jury: Evie, Chantel, Lyanna, Danny, Ricardo, Heather, and Tiffany. I think the Seer's probably the least biased out of them all. I think that 41 just really was hoping that players like JD, Brad, Voce got to the end, while some other players like Heather and Erica go home early. Honestly, people say this cast is one of the better casts. I think this cast is vastly overrated. I think the Bitters jurors said it the best. This cast is very safe. They go on about how it's so diverse, but if you look at the diversity of thought in this cast, there is none. There is no diversity of thought in this cast. Everyone is a person on Twitter that's woke and stuff like that. Remember when Survivor used to cast people that were on both sides of the political party? The best relationships are from people that are on different sides of the political aisle, probably. People that don't make sense being alliance. Why do you think that Richard Hatch and Rudy is one of the best Survivor, bromances / alliances ever? It's because they're so completely different people. You have this, I think, from looking at his Twitter, left-leaning gay man, and this probably right-leaning, probably actually a homophobic military man. And they were the best of friends out there. When you get cast that are safe like this, that all think the same, they're all just going to play, kumbaya with each other and stuff like that, and not want to have to hurt people's feelings. Again, best like alliances like Big Tom, Ethan, like they're two completely different people. But everyone here's the same person. It doesn't matter what your race is. You can think the same exact way and it doesn't matter. This is why we need Survivor to cast people that lean right, which they haven't done in a while. The last one they did it was Sarah, which was 34, which they didn't even know really. And even with that, Sarah was like the only person I can think of on Game Changers that was right-leaning probably. When you get cast, they're all leaning one way, right or left, it doesn't matter. It's just simply not going to be fun because everyone thinks the same. And I think everyone really thinks the same here on 41. I think the only person that might possibly lean right is Brad, and he went out 4th, so we don't really get to see that much of him. Erica is a winner. She's probably in my 30s as a winner. I'll have to rewatch Survivor 41 to really assess her game. And I'll probably have to rewatch Survivor 41 again to really get a good place of where it's at. But because, if you guys don't know, I really don't like old school seasons of Survivor that much. Survivor 41 might actually be able to sneak its way into the higher 20s, I think. Like 21st, 22nd, something like that. But it is one of the, worst old school seasons that we have out here. I think it's better than Island of the Idol. That is not saying that much. It's definitely not better than Winners at War EOE, David versus Goliath. It's probably better than Ghost Island, but that's not saying that much. I think HHH is better than it. Game Changers, if you guys don't know, I'm actually a Game Changers apologist. I like Game Changers. I think it's better than that. It's not as good as, I think it's not as good as Millennials versus Gen X. Not as good as Koran. Like, it's a really icky season. But let's end this off with a strong note. Look, even though I have my qualms with Survivor 41, and even though that I have so many problems with Survivor 41, and it's in the direction that Survivor 41 is taking Survivor with this woke BS, it's still a season of Survivor. I love Survivor. I always will love Survivor. And even though this wasn't, in my opinion, a really good season of Survivor, I'm still glad that we got it, because I love Survivor. It's the first Survivor season that we haven't, that took a break. The first season that came off of this massive break since Survivor 40 in May of 2020. So I'll always have that soft spot in my heart. I love Survivor, and like I said, I love Survivor. So I do kind of have this soft spot in my heart for 41. In the very beginning, I think it was way too hated, and now at the very end, I think Survivor 41 is way too loved. I think a lot of the reason why it's loved is because of this identity politics and stuff like that, and people saying, "Oh, look, Erica won. She's a Filipino woman." It doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are, what ethnicity. If you're a good winner, you're a good winner. If you're not a good winner, you're not a good winner. I don't think Erica is necessarily a bad player. She's probably an okay player, but her winning game I don't think is good. I think if we ever wanted to actually know how good Erica is, we're going to have to see her play again, because obviously Erica goes home like 4 times over if Luvu went to a 1 tribal council. So we'd have to see Erica play again to really get a sense of her game. And the thing is, I don't think we will see Erica again. I don't think so. I don't really see production having an incentive to bring her back. But in saying that, I didn't think we will see a lot of people back. I didn't think we'll probably see Xander back, Ricard back, Chantel back, Evie back, Nasir back. I could even see some early pre-mergers like Voce or JD or Brad coming back for a second chance season. I think we will see a lot of this cast come back at one point. I think we have a good shot to see Nasir back. Even Eric Abraham, the first vote off, because if they want to do a first vote season, they're kind of going to need to get all the male vote off, first vote off so they can get. And obviously we're not getting Heather back. But I will say though, after that praise there, I am a little bit disappointed with the season. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting a top 10 season. I was expecting somewhere in the 25th place range, which it might have actually, it's really hard for me to assess this season. I'm gonna have to rewatch it again to actually be able to put it on my, season rankings. But there's just so many problems when it comes to the woke stuff, when it comes to the cast, in my opinion, that just really hold this season down. I think the season, honestly, with this cast, which, like I said, I don't think is as good as it says, I still think that it had a shot of being really, really freaking good. But it ended up kind of disappointing me, I think. Which is obviously bad. Now let's have this other section at the very end of this video. What do I think that Survivor 41, is going to give Survivor? The direction of Survivor that Survivor 41 is leading us in. I gotta be honest, I don't think it's in a good direction. If they keep up what they did with Survivor 41, we're going to keep seeing ratings drop and views drop over and over and over again. This is the biggest view decrease we have seen ever. I mean, we've almost lost about 1 million viewers from the beginning of the season. At one point, the least viewed episode, it had 5.47 million views, as opposed to the premiere, which had 6.25 million views, which is, I think, the least watched premiere ever. Usually, Survivor episodes have around 8 to 7 million views. I think production thinks that in the long run, being woke is going to work and actually get you new viewers, which it doesn't. I think Survivor fundamentally doesn't understand that the majority of the viewers who watch Survivor are casual fans who don't care about this stuff. There's the vocal majority on Twitter, which are all saying, let's go Erica, let's go Ricard, let's go the camp out, when that isn't the case. I think Survivor just, like I said, fundamentally doesn't understand that most of their viewers are casual fans who just don't want to see politics on the show. And in that, we don't want to get educated on the show. People, they're saying, oh, let me educate you on the show about this. Lyanna's like, let me educate you about this. We don't want to see that. And it's even worse when our argument is so easily be able to be picked apart and be proven wrong. But, if I had to rank it somewhere right now, it'd probably be mid-20s. It might even make its way into the 30s after I rewatch it. I don't think that... I'm not impressed with this season, really. But like I said, I know some of my friends, Survivor fans might make fun of me for this, but I have a special place in it for my heart, as it's the first season we got back after so long. I mean, the first, minutes of when seeing the players again was so unreal after so long. I think we kind of took Survivor granted for a bit. And it is bittersweet seeing the season finally come to an end, despite all my qualms and problems with it. It is kind of bittersweet. For me, it is kind of sad to see the season go. We got used to being in this, seeing a new episode every week. We got used to me, Spencer or whatever, making podcasts about it, making, power rankings about it. And now that's going to be gone for a bit. So I will have this special place in my heart. It's where kind of I started my YouTube journey here with Survivor. Obviously, I have another channel. And, hopefully Survivor 42 will be better. I think the cast for 42, just looking at it right now, isn't as good. But we have no idea. We're just going to have to see when the bios come out and stuff like that. Again, not too impressed with the season. I think it is a below average season. But yeah, that's my review of Survivor 41. I'm going to give it the below average score, which is about 5 out of 10, I think. 5 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. I think this season was always going to struggle. Being off for a year, I think it was always going to get less views, but obviously the wokeness did not help at all. I didn't think the season had big shoes to fill in, obviously. I think the season had major shoes to fill in after 40. And, yeah. It's gonna be weird, honestly. I think not seeing a new episode every single week. But hey, that life goes on, right? Survivor 42 will be on March 9th. After that season's over, I'll make a review about it. I'm not done talking about Survivor 41 just yet on the channel. I have a couple more commentary videos coming out about it. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of Survivor 41. Thank you guys for watching.